According to documents we've received from the Bureau, the FBI was aware that several violent extremists already under investigation were preparing to travel to Washington in January. In December, FBI Atlanta issued an alert that certain militia groups were preparing for a significant event in January, perhaps on Inauguration Day. And on January 5th, a report from FBI Norfolk warned about specific calls for violence at the Capitol the next day, some of them graphic. Congress needs to hear of glass breaking, doors being kicked in, and blood being spilled. The report also noted that individuals were sharing maps of the tunnels underneath the Capitol complex and listed rally points where the attackers would gather before advancing on the building. We know that the Norfolk report made it to the FBI's Washington field office in advance of the attack. And yet, for days after the attack, the head of that field office insisted that it had received no intelligence suggesting anything other than First Amendment activity. Director Wray, the warnings coming in from around the country were clear. Here in Washington, did the FBI simply miss the evidence, or did it see the evidence and fail to piece it together?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you could imagine, we are just as outraged by what happened on January 6th and just as determined to do our part to make sure that never happens again. Now, the Norfolk report that you referenced was a specific piece of raw, unverified intelligence that emerged on January 5th, the day before, from a source online, unvetted, and despite the raw nature of it, it was quickly passed, not one, not two, but three different ways to the Capitol Police. One, an email to their representatives on our Joint Terrorism Task Force. Two, in a verbal briefing in our command post that included members of the Capitol Police, MPD, et cetera. And third, in our law enforcement portal, which all law enforcement partners have access to. So we tried to make sure that we got that information to the right people. Obviously, anytime there is an attack, especially one as significant as this one, you can be darn sure that we are going to be looking hard at how we can do better, how we can do more, how we can do things differently in terms of collecting, analyzing, and disseminating intelligence. Now, you also mentioned individuals under investigation before January 6th. So a couple things on that. First, the FBI did disseminate, I think, about a dozen intelligence products, including warning of domestic violent extremism related to the election, some talking about it continuing past the election all the way through inauguration, including reports together with DHS put out in December the month before. As far as individuals actually under investigation, now that we're close to 500 arrests into the matter, you may be surprised to learn that, in fact, almost none of the individuals charged and found to be involved with the attack on the Capitol were, in fact, individuals who were previously under investigation.
At 12:53 p.m. on January 6th, rioters broke through the outer barricades surrounding the lawn of the Capitol. Shortly after 1:45, the rioters surged past the Capitol Police protecting the Capitol's west steps, and at 1:49, officers officially declared there was a riot at the Capitol. Acting Attorney General Rosen testified before the Oversight Committee that he learned that the FBI and the ATF received requests for assistance from the Capitol Police and were beginning to respond. When specifically in that timeline of events did Capitol Police request assistance from the FBI, and how quickly was that help deployed?
I don't have the specific time for you, so I don't want to misspeak.
Okay. The FBI's Washington field office is one of the largest field offices in the country. The field office was reportedly found by an internal review in 2019 to be both ineffective and inefficient. Specifically, the review criticized the field office's mechanisms for collecting and analyzing threat intelligence, as well as its procedures for sharing intelligence with other law enforcement agencies, including the Capitol Police. Did the Washington field office's domestic terrorism shortcomings lead to a delayed response in the lead up to and on January 6th?
My recollection of that particular audit or inspection is that it was a while back and that we had recently changed the leadership of the Washington field office and made a number of reforms. So to my knowledge, at least, none of the issues that were discussed in that earlier report contributed to the response on January 6th.
Thank you. My time is short, but I want to get in one last question. In February, the Secretary of Defense converted senior military officials and civilian leadership of the armed forces to assess the problem of extremist ideology in the military's ranks. In late April, the Department of Homeland Security announced it was conducting an internal review to root out white supremacy and other extremist ideology in its ranks. There can be no question that law enforcement agencies across the country face a similar challenge. Is the FBI conducting its own internal inspection or review to root out white supremacy and other extremist ideology? And if not, will you commit to conducting such a review?
Well, Mr. Chairman, obviously we take the prospect of what the intelligence community or law enforcement would refer to as an insider threat very seriously. We have a whole slew of procedures and internal reviews that speak to that, and I'd be happy to see if we can provide you more information on that separately.
Thank you very much. My time has expired.